Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina, and I'm the host here. And my guest today comes from Riga, Latvia, Linda Skuya. Welcome to Fiberchats.
Hi, hello, and thank you for having me.
And we just met in person at Swiss Yarn Festival. It was lovely to see you at meet and greet, see all your samples. Some people in my group came back to me. I came there with the group, and if you guys haven't seen it, I just posted recap of Swiss Yarn Festival, so you can watch it there. But some people in my group came back to me, and they were like, "We saw these samples, and they look like knitting, but because like all of the people on my in my group, they were mostly knitters, so crochet was like secondary, and." They were like, it looks like knitting. I can't believe it's actually crochet. And you were like, yeah, of course it's crochet. So let's talk about like how crochet entered your life. Living in Latvia, I'm assuming you studied it a little bit in school.
Yeah. Well, crafts in Latvia runs in generations. Every granny knows how to knit, how to crochet, and we have a rich tradition of knitting and also a little bit of crochet. And yeah, they teach us in school, like every kid my age
Right. Well,
can
was
can
both knitting and crochet taught, or was it just one or another?
both, as well as sewing, embroidery, cooking, homekeeping, stuff like that.
You know, I'm so
Uh,
jealous, honestly, like because I grew up in Siberia at the same, probably a little earlier than you are, but like we had home economics, but it was like the only thing we learned how to do is to sew an apron, um, some limited cooking, but there was no knitting and no crochet. And every time I talk to my friends from Latvia, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that like we had to knit mittens and we had to knit sweaters and we had to do this," and I'm like, "Why didn't they teach that in my school?"
yeah. I think it's a really good thing that they do, but at that time it didn't seem so, right? For a kid of eighth grade to knit a full sweater, it was torture.
Right. Well, did you, when you were a kid, right, and you were studying that in school, were your parents also crafty or grandmas? Like, were they helping you with this thing?
Yeah, not my parents, but both of my grannies and granny's sisters were avid knitters, also knew how to crochet. And yeah, my granny's sister taught me to crochet. It was about the same time when they taught us in school.
Right.
So she helped me, yeah, and I always had someone to turn to and ask questions. And yeah, I remember my first project was this shawl, and we couldn't do it like long piece horizontally. We had to do vertically and keep those edges straight. And that was a challenge, of course. But I think I was 10 years old, probably. But yeah, that was my everyone's first project in grade five.
Well, I find like I interviewed a lot of people, and usually when they learn to knit or crochet, like as children, there is this two category. There is a category of people who like do it because they have to in school or their like grandparents teach them, but they absolutely resent it and hate the whole process and come back to it as adults. And then there are kids who like really fall for it and always crochet, always knit all their life. Where are you in that spectrum?
I'm somewhere in between. I've always had interest in that. I remember taking the schematics from women's magazines and creating my own doilies and but it was up and down. I was never like really into it. And of course, when I grew up, it was considered very unstylish.
Right.
Like I didn't want to be unpopular or left out because of that. So I did it secretly in my home. But I remember, yeah, projects like Granny Square backpack. Yeah, doilies. Doilies were pretty much my thing. Yeah, and then I just didn't do anything until my, I guess it was early 20s when I was in uni, probably. Then I picked it up again.
Yeah. Well, when you live in place like Latvia, right, where a lot of people are very handy, and it's not considered fiber arts, it's considered craft, it's considered like something more out of necessity. It's cold in the winter, it's windy in the fall and spring, so you need something, you need shawls, you need mittens, you need hats. So a lot of people who were knitting or crocheting there, they did it more out of necessity because it was hard to find something in stores, and so they would be crafting. When I look at your creations, I cannot think about practical side of it. I mean, each and every one of them is a piece of art. Was it a difficult journey for you to break out of that crafty mold and see yourself as an artist, see yourself as a fashion designer?
Oh, wow. I don't see myself as a fashion designer particularly, but yeah, recent years it has come to me that this revelation that I do create art. This is my art. This takes some courage to say that. But I never like seen myself as particularly breaking out of craft. In my early 20s, I was very interested in fashion. I watched all the New York fashion shows. I just really liked it, you know. And whenever I spotted crochet on the runway, I was, it's there, right? But like, you know, at the beginning of my crochet designing career, I just put stuff out, whatever I wanted, whatever crazy stuff I made. You know, I was like young adult, bunch of crazy ideas, and I think that was a good start for me, for everyone. Like, you know, I wouldn't probably put them out right now because there are more of a consideration behind my designs right now and more of experience and knowledge. And also, I'm so much older. But it's a good time, actually, your 20s, to go crazy, to experiment, and sometimes you do attract people who think likewise. And I think I still have customers from my days back from 15 years ago when I started designing.
Well, when you started designing, you also used to do custom orders. And I feel like a lot of knitters and crocheters go through that period of time when they, either need gifts for somebody or they need custom orders. And then you just getting like really frustrated with the fact that nobody appreciates it because the amount of time, the amount of skill that goes into that, the amount of attention to all the details, and then you can't sell it for like minimal wage.
If any, actually. Yeah, it was actually the starting point of my pattern writing way, let's say that. Because every time I gave an order away, I was again at the 0 point where I have nothing. The order is gone. I don't have anything. I had to start all over again. And then I started exploring ways, how can I monetize my passion for crochet? So I tried to do custom orders, I tried to teach, and also I discovered Ravelry. I discovered that people write patterns, they self-publish it, which was news to me. And yeah, and so it began for me.
Well, talking of the New York Fashion Week, you weren't just an observer, you actually, your designs were on New York Fashion Week. Tell me that story. How did that happen?
Yeah. So as I was saying, I was this new designer, not thinking about much about anything. I was just putting my work out there. I had my first patterns on Etsy, and this cool, hip New York designer, Leila Shams, she found me through Etsy. And she liked my work very much. And for her first collection, she actually inspired her designs from mine. from my designs, and it was completely mutual, and I allowed it to be. And she invited me to be a sample maker for her collection, which she showed at New York Fashion Week. And that was very, very exciting. I was over the moon, like for this opportunity, for the stuff that she actually recreated from my designs. And it was a dream come true for just for a young designer who was just starting
Right.
to be in New York Fashion Week. How cool is that? I worked for her for another season for her, I think not next show, but 2 years
Later.
after that.
Yeah.
So that was also like pretty cool.
Tell me a little bit about the process of how it works, because she does a sketch and then you have to somehow recreate her sketch in real life. Like that must present
Yes.
some challenges.
Exactly. So I got sketches, and for the rest of it, I had like a complete creative freedom, choosing yarns, choosing how, making all the construction work, putting it together. And I remember one time she just sent me the sketches, and I was like sitting, oh my God, how I'm gonna do it, because these were not easy pieces at all. And I remember one of my colleagues at the co-working space came in, and I was telling him like, I'm I'm screwed. And he was just telling, okay, just start with whatever you know, whichever is easier for you. You will figure out the rest. And so I did, actually. That's a very good suggestion, I think.
I think so too. I like that because a lot of times we overcomplicate and try to go too many steps ahead of ourselves. I mean, even when people follow a pattern, I find that like lots of times people will print out the pattern, try to read it quickly, and say, oh my God, like I absolutely don't understand anything in it, right? But then if you just cast on those stitches and follow line by line, somehow you'll find yourself at the end of the pattern and you can do it, right? So I feel like this every time you have a daunting project, that idea of like start with what you already know and then figure it out as you go, it's probably the most brilliant suggestion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so how does it work? Like you're going from Fashion Week and you're creating all this, outrageous creations that's gonna be on runway. Was there like I'm sure that's like an ultimate high, right? To have that success. Was it easy to continue after that? Was everything coming easy to you? And like this, was it just a continued success in your regular design journey?
Those two areas, working for Fashion Week and creating my patterns, are totally not connected. So uh, I don't remember that time exactly, but judging from the dates when I create something, uh, at that time I also created one of my most successful patterns. At that time, it was this triangle scarf, totally not connected to the Fashion Week stuff. Just it was a new construction for the time, and it was a very, very successful design. And I even see someone buying it after 15 years now. So yeah, it was probably, I'm guessing I was on a good wave creatively and just could create something that's a popular design of my own.
I mean, was there ever any difficulty in your journey? I'm sure it's not like you wake up with another brilliant idea every other day. Like, do you
Uh,
ever have time when you're not feeling creative or when you don't have any ideas or when your design just doesn't work as you hoped it would?
yeah, lots of times. And actually, what you mentioned about that high point, I felt that after I released my Sansom sweater and Goldenrod sweater, which are still one of my most popular designs, and after those, I was like, what now? Like, how can I keep that level? But of course, I couldn't because not every design has to be a bestseller, you know. It's okay to create normal, average design. And yeah, sometimes it is hard to overcome it, but I think after some time, you just get again in your creative mode and don't think about competing with yourself again.
Do you feel like you like hard on yourself usually in life, like in different situations? Are you your biggest critic?
Yeah, I think I am, but not design wise, more I would say communication wise with the clients, with people who kind of want to be my clients, but kind of know, you know, all this buzz around designing. But when it comes to designing, I think you know, big part of my work just evolves from my previous works. So that path for me is pretty easy, and it's just exploring what else is there. And that's yeah, that's what I've been doing. And sometimes I worry that I'm a one-trick pony, as I say it, that whatever I start, I end up with a sweater. But sometimes it's just whichever texture I create, I want to explore it fully and just I create many pieces with it. And that might seem like boring, but also for me, it's another step in exploring that particular texture or stitch pattern. So, you know, for most part, my life is, I would characterize it as curious and exploring. And yeah, like this creative side, that's not my biggest issue, I would say.
Do you ever think in terms of collections? Like
Yeah,
coming from that
sometimes.
fashion show, like do you think like those pieces, like if I continue in that pattern or if I'm continue in that technique, like I can create a whole collection?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally can see how one texture can build a collection. Also, in my head, that constantly turns into a new book. But whenever I finish a book, I said usually say I'm never gonna write another book again because the process is long and very demanding, I would say. But yeah, I do see. I call my textures sometimes families. Like this is this one family, one texture family. This is another texture family. I don't see them as collections, which they probably are collections. But yeah, for me, the collection would be at least 15, 20 pieces. But yeah.
Well,
Um,
let's talk about your book writing because when we were at Swiss Yarn Festival, I actually participated in a little reel making when you went live, and we were holding the cover of the upcoming book. So tell us a little bit more about that.
yeah, thank you so much
Oh, it
for
was
joining.
absolutely my pleasure, trust me. I was in a great company there helping you to promote that book.
Yeah. So yeah, I have written a new book that will be out in a couple of months, probably mid-June, maybe even earlier. But yeah, it's been a journey again, 2.5 years, but I'm so happy for it. I love every part of it. I am actually
Yeah, tell
wearing
me about the
the
parts of it because
coffee.
like yeah, because like it's not overnight that the and you already wrote books, so it's like it's not your first rodeo there, but is it more difficult to write another book like once you already have done it, or is it much easier and you're already familiar with the process and so it goes much faster?
I would say this book, in terms of how it feels after I've finished it, the process and everything about it is much better because I did it on my terms, in my deadlines. Uh, Basically, what I didn't achieve for myself, those little things. With my first book, I think I did with my second book. And it was very important to me not being in a rush, to have a really good concept and to stick to it and create from a place that feels very true to me, and also not just not rush anything, not make something up last minute. And Yeah, I'm super grateful to my publisher who was very patient with me, and I said I don't have problems with deadlines. Of course I do. Of course I do, but that's life, of course. And I'm very happy with this book, and it's coming together. And I actually can't wait to see it and to hold it in my arms. And like, I'm very happy when people are already messaging me, I can't wait for your book. And like, that is what makes the process even more special, I think.
Right. Well, when you wrote your first book, there was 15 patterns in it. Um, can we expect the same for this book?
No, there will be 12 patterns. And this time I felt that less is more. In this book, I would say they are more meaningful. Every pattern has its story, and like a real story from my upbringing, from where I come from. It's a story about North, about Nordic nature, and how it all comes together. And yeah, I think every piece is more well thought of. I would say the first book was more of a retrospection of my previous work, and this is more conceptual. This is about the North, where I come from, about what I see during my everyday, about all the seasons, about what it's like to be a northerner, actually.
And it's interesting because, like, when people, like, you were born and raised and lived all your life in Riga, and Riga is a metropolitan city. But the nature of Latvia is just so stunning. They have all these sand dunes and they have beautiful sea, the Baltic Sea is there, the forests, like it's wild, it can be stormy, like it's very dramatic nature. I used to
Yeah.
spend all my summers there, so like I speak from the experience. But what would you say, like what influence does the country that you live in have on you and your designs?
Everything, I guess. When I hear a person say that, oh no, the environment is not affecting me in any way, I think they probably don't acknowledge it, or they're lying. Because everything you see, you experience, you feel growing up and just living your life here, it affects you as a human being, how you think, how you perceive things. Like like for example, this winter was especially cold and snowy and long, and I enjoyed it so much. Like I was like, over the moon, finally a really good winter. And Yeah, it's actually I'm not entirely a city girl. Like for the last 20 years of my life, yes, but I grew up in north of Latvia in a small coastal town. So we had sea, we had river, we had nature around, uh, and uh, um, and of course, the childhood memories are the ones that affect you a lot. So yeah, that's also included in some designs from my book.
You know, one of my childhood memories of Latvia was picking chanterelles in the forest, going mushroom hunting. And I've heard that's one of your passions as well.
Absolutely. I've been mushroom hunting since I was 1 year old, could hardly walk. And my parents took me to the forest, and yeah, it's one of my very, very strong passions that I try to do every year. And even with the bears that are around nowadays, I still do it. Like normal people on Friday nights go out and have a drink. Linda takes a knife and goes to the forest.
Somehow, like it fits
True
your
story.
image. It fits your image somehow with the all the, cutting edge crochet and knife hunting mushrooms. I can
Very
totally
edgy.
see that. The funny story, like I moved to Siberia when I was 9, and we moved from Uzbekistan where there was like not really many mushrooms, and Siberia is so full of all the natural resources. So I got an encyclopedia of young naturalists and I studied the mushrooms. And I was the one who was taking my family, who like never picked mushrooms, to the forest, explaining them about like edible and not edible. And like I was the main guide for the family. So it's always been a passion of mine.
That's beautiful. That's also a bit of a dangerous hobby if you don't know the mushrooms.
Right. Well, I studied them like,
Living on the edge.
right, right. Let's talk a little bit about your design process. Like when you come up with the idea of design, like how do you approach it? Do you see some idea like in nature? Do you um, come up with the texture in the stitch dictionary? Do you sketch first? Do you swatch first? Tell me about like how it goes from the idea to the final product.
Yeah, so during the latest years, I think it's always been just evolving from my previous designs. So I tried the stitch pattern and I have to know what else can I do with it. And every next design just comes with a different angle of that. And sometimes I dig up some of my older designs. Like recently, I released the Steeple sweater, which is squares, just
I love
with
that sweater. It's like,
holes. And that actually dates back to 2014 when I had a design in a magazine called Crochet Scene, a similar one where I use those vertical bars.
mhm.
And I do use those vertical bars, I think, for many of my designs if you look closer. And yeah, and sometimes it's just sometimes I do see a picture of someone who has made my design, and in different color it just gives me ideas, but every time it's just something. I wouldn't say I'm just creating something new. It's every time something, it's a new angle I'm trying on a thing that I already do. I do a lot of swatching though. It's just sometimes it's a week of swatches. And I could go totally crazy. Like right now, my favorite technique is this flat crochet cables. I am just flat cabling all my free time and like creating all the variations, and it looks like a new book to me.
Oh,
But
I
no,
like
I'm
that. I
not
like that.
joking. But it looks like a collection, I would say, because there is a lot to explore with that technique, and I really like how it turns out. All the things like I gave a new design to my tech editor today, so it's exciting for me as well. Every time I put out a new design or new technique, uh, what would others think? Although I don't care that much, but it's always good that people also appreciate and like the technique because I think it's how I see my work. I always tell that the first level is how it looks. It has to look good. The second level is it has to feel good. So it has a lot to do with materials like crochet-friendly yarns. And the third level is the pattern writing. If
Yeah.
the pattern has a flow, you don't want to. Sometimes patterns can be very complex and long, and I hate it. But but they are. And uh, every time when I achieve that a pattern has this flow or is easy to read, that's a win, a small win for me. And
Right.
that's my third level of achievement for myself.
Well, I want to talk to you about what you just mentioned about the crochet friendly yarn, because that's a concept you talk a lot on your Instagram. I noticed that. Tell me a little bit more, because that's something I hear from a lot of people, that crochet is stiff, crochet doesn't have the drape, and you talk about how it's not about the fabric, it's about the material you use for it. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. I'm very happy. This is my topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the last years, I've been exploring and trying and experimenting with the yarns to see what works best with crochet. We all know that crochet is the crochet stitch itself, it's thicker than knit stitch, and therefore we need to look for yarns that you know, benefit that give drape, that make crochet feel easy, not stiff. And at the same time, there are a lot of pieces that come together. It's technique, it's stitch pattern, and it's materials. And once I was asked to tell people about how it is to crochet modernly, and I was like, the stitches are basically the same. The part that has changed from maybe 20 or 30 or 40 years ago is the materials. And that is what can, I would say, make or break your project.
You're also a fan of chainette construction yarn, when there is like a chain filled with different fluff. So is that the yarn that you would like gravitate towards when you choose your yarn for your own patterns?
Yes, not all of them, but yeah, Chinette, I-cord, blown yarns, those work really beautifully, mostly. Of course, you have to swatch,
Yeah.
but mostly those are really cool. And whenever I spot a new I-cord yarn or blown yarn, I will be buying it just to see if my theory works. But yeah, those are really great for crochet.
Well, talking of buying yarn, what's your yarn stash looks like? Do you get a lot of yarn support from companies, or do you actually buy yarn? And what would make you buy yarn? Like when you come to a festival like Swiss Yarn Festival, what kind of yarn will call your name?
I do buy yarn all the time because, first of all, when I come to festivals, I want to support all the great hand-dyed yarns and yarn dyers. And this time I didn't buy any because I didn't have my space in my suitcase. But in Munich, I bought also hand-dyed blown yarn, which was alpaca something something. And the color was just so beautiful. I haven't used it yet, but I swatched with it and it works really good with crochet. And I do have a sweater in mind, of course, for it. And yeah, and when I was in Barcelona festival, I bought a whole suitcase full of yarn. Then
They
it got
have
lost in the
they have like
airport.
really amazing yarn in Barcelona. Like I'm so looking forward going back to Barcelona needs, just because like the yarn bases that they have there, like I haven't
Yeah.
seen anywhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Spanish blends because it's they are warm weather country, and what you get is like lots of natural fibers, but with cotton, with linen in it, so they're not as hot when wearing, which I really appreciate. And also this brushed cotton. Also, which looks like wool, but it's only cotton. Also, genius idea, I
I
think.
mean,
And
yeah, so like Pasquale has brush cotton. It feels like
yes, yes.
cashmere. Like you knit with it and it feels like cashmere.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very excited for this new direction that I wouldn't say new direction, but like in the last years, it has been very, very obvious that yarn brands and dyers are trying new bases, new. structures of yarn, new ways, and these lots of them favor the crochet process, and I'm very, very happy for it.
Right. Well, I when I met you at Swiss Yarn Festival, you were teaching classes there. Let's talk a little bit about your teaching journey because you mentioned you started teaching relatively early on. What about teaching do you love? What you don't love, if anything? And tell me also about your Domestica course.
Oh yeah. Yeah, at the very, very beginning of my crochet journey, I taught some classes here in Latvia, but that didn't last very long because I didn't have my own room. I didn't have like a stable collaboration with a yarn shop or whatever. So it ended. And I think during COVID, festivals started inviting me, and I think maybe 2 years ago was the first year I went to teach at the festival abroad. Of
Right.
course, I've taught in Latvia. What I love about teaching is like meeting all the people, seeing how actually what challenges do they have when crocheting, how they think, how they read patterns, like all this one-on-one experience that you can get, and that is something that you can't get online.
Right.
It's something like really, I would say, even personal. And for me, it definitely adds to how I write my patterns. Um, when I see what's missing, what people are seeking in the pattern or in a chart or whatever. Yeah, that is my favorite part of the teaching, of course, and I'm just glad people are interested. I usually teach my own techniques, like crochet short rows, but how I see it, how I involve them in my designs, like intricate stitches, now flat crochet cables, and so on. So I'm also, I think I'm partly testing that technique to see uh, if it's even doable, if
Right.
people like it, what's the flow with it, you know? And is there any part that I don't like? I don't know. Probably no. You know, before the festivals, sometimes I feel uninspired. Sometimes I think, okay, I will just go and teach my class and just sit in my hotel room. But when you are at the festival, it's just not happening. You just want to hang out. You just want to go touch all the yarns. You want to talk with other teachers and just feel the festival atmosphere. And after the festival, like it's a week, you are still very positive and you got all the great vibes from
The,
it.
the glow of the festival after the festival.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you also have tutorials on YouTube, and as I mentioned, you have a Domestica course.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy teaching like bits and pieces on like on YouTube, on Instagram and Domestica? Like, do you feel like um you are like some people, like I was talking to Isabel Kramer and she was like, I can design, I just don't want to teach. Like some people love teaching and some people feel like it's just an extra thing that they do but they don't necessarily enjoy it. Do you prefer the teaching in person, or do you think like putting videos and putting tutorials and putting this Domestica course is also helpful to a lot of people who can't come to the festival and be there in person?
Yeah. I pretty much prefer teaching in person. I think both me as a teacher and the students gain more from that interaction. The short videos that I have on YouTube, these usually accompany my patterns
Right.
as bonus materials. This is that stitch, or there is this visible part that is public, and there is also this private part that comes only with the pattern. So mostly I do film tutorials because of the patterns. But I also have some courses like which I called studio sessions, where I talk about patterns, how to read patterns, what's behind a pattern, and also about the yarns for crocheters. And I would say yes, I do enjoy, especially when you see people buy those courses and uh, when you see the demand and when you see it is a very much needed information, then of course it just adds to all of it. And I'm just happy I can be of service for people and like clear things out or just tell them how I see the processes behind pattern, how a pattern should be read in my head. But yeah, I do enjoy it.
When I talked to my mom, right, and my mom was like very handy and everything, but she was sort of one of those people who thought that like this is just something you do on the side, like in the evening in front of TV for a little bit. Like it's not a profession, it's not the proper way to support yourself, it's not like serious business here. Do you have support of your family, of your relatives in what you do, or do you still get that like sort of pushback as to like when are you gonna start doing the real thing?
Yeah, I used to get that from my mom. Yeah, when are you getting a real job? But not anymore. No, my family is very supportive of me, and it's been a long time. I've had I've even had book and courses, and I'm doing this. I think they finally understood that it is serious. Yeah, but other than that, my family is very supportive of me, and they support me, my absence when I go to festivals, and yeah, sometimes when I have to do lots of work, I also am not present with my family, and yeah, I'm lucky to have their support.
Well, outside of the crochet and all the crafting and teaching and designing and all of these things that fill your life, what else brings you joy? What else do you love to do?
I'm a big hiker. I love going into nature. I love to take long hikes into nature. Sometimes I go to these different countries, to Europe, to hike, to see beautiful places. Yeah, that's my main sport. Let's say that. Other than that, I think. Um, of course, picking up shrooms, that's one. I am interested in lots of things, but lately those hobbies have been like left out. Um, Hopefully I will pick them up someday. I used to be a big fan of jigsaw puzzles. I have a lot of them at home. I used to do inline skating.
Oh,
Also a very dear hobby of mine, and but I haven't skated for several years now. So yeah, mainly I would say nowadays it's hiking.
right. Do you plan on teaching your kids how to crochet?
If they want to. Uh, we still do have this technology and design class in school, so probably they will have to. If they do have interest, why not?
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you had time to sit and chat with me, and I loved getting to know you better. And I hope to see you soon at some other festival somewhere in the world.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Nita.
so
Thank you
much
for
for
being.
having me.
Thank
I
you.
hope to see you soon. Very soon at some festivals, actually.
Yeah, yeah, I'm doing a lot of traveling nowadays, so it's very probable.
Yeah.